Hi, everyone. Just wanted to say thank you for your diligent participation so far in our course. It's Monday morning, September 28th, and I am going through many posts on the discussion board forum for the first couple paragraphs of your scholarship essay, as well as the responses that you've made to each other. So thank you for providing those. I want to do a little bit of an overview in this video of the scholarship essay and give you a little bit more guidance as you develop the whole thing, the first full draft of it this week. Those are due Thursday. Since we may have had some students who joined the class a little bit late, added the class a little bit late, etc., and also since there may not have been a timely enough reminder on my part, I'm going to make sure that I give you guys a tiny bit more time to post those if needed. So the document I have pulled up on my screen share is the assignment sheet. So the only two things you were expected to review for last week were the syllabus for the course and then this assignment sheet. Those were posted, and those were the only things that were visible to you last week for this class. So I'm not going to read the whole thing, but just basically 800 to 1,000 word essay. That comes out to be roughly 3 pages, maybe 2.5 for some people, maybe 3.5 pages for some people. And it comes from Salish Kootenai College, which is a college where I used to teach. It's in the Flathead Indian Reservation in Montana. Why did I pull a scholarship essay from another school? This is Spokane Community College, right? Well, the reason I use this layout pulled from this particular school is because it's usable anywhere. So many scholarship essays will ask you very simple questions and open-ended questions, such as, tell us a little bit about yourself and why you decided to be a student here at whatever college. And it doesn't give you much to go on. This particular college, the way they worded their scholarship essay prompts being the questions they ask you, were really specific. And I think that if you write according to this really specific one, you can turn it in anywhere. So if you follow this layout, this outline, answer these questions in a nice 800 to 1,000 word essay, you could submit that here. You could submit that at EWU or any school where you're planning to transfer to maybe after this, and have a pretty nice essay to turn in. So it's the reason I chose this particular essay from a different college is because it's really thorough and it's usable. It makes it usable no matter where you turn it in, okay? So last week you were supposed to write the introduction, pretty straightforward, and then choose either academics or career to talk about, okay? And we'll get to those in just a second. And what this is called is pre-writing, when the instructor doesn't give you a whole lot to go on other than here's the question, now write me your response. And that's it. That's the only information you really have. It's called pre-writing when we talk about phases of the writing process. So when we talk about writing process phases, we talk about pre-writing, brainstorming, outlining, rough drafting, second draft, third draft, final draft, that type of thing. And we'll be doing a lot of that in this class, largely on the discussion board forum. You'll have discussion boards that are prompting you to show me pieces of something that we're working towards for the full essay, okay? So you didn't know it, but the actual first week's assignment counted as pre-writing for this particular unit or assignment. And so when you see statements up above saying, I won't accept any essay without sufficient evidence of individual student work in each stage of the writing process, that means I expect to see you working on this a little bit each week and posting stuff on the discussion boards and turning in the little pieces of it that I require before you turn in the final draft. You can't just show up 3 weeks into the class, hand in a final draft, and I've not seen any kind of previous work from you whatsoever. You can't do that, okay? So it's an online format, but we are working through stages of our writing process as we go. I'm going to get to the rubric in just a minute. This little paragraph down here talks about the rubric. It also talks about MLA, format and style. So I have a couple of other documents for you to look at on Canvas this week that address those. I'm also going to cover those in this video. Here's the deadlines. They're highlighted in green for a reason, and that's to bring it to your attention. We're going to try to type out a full rough draft by this Thursday, 11:59 p.m., and post that on the discussion board in Canvas. I am going to allow a little bit of wiggle time here. That discussion board stays open because once you post them, you've got time now to review each other's work afterwards. So it won't close. It'll stay open. For those of you who are tuning in a little bit late, you joined the class late, or maybe you missed my emails or whatever, this kind of gives you a little bit more wiggle room and a little more time. And for this first essay only, I will be a little bit lenient with this date. If you're Friday turning it in or whatever, I'll be a little bit lenient there. But these are the deadlines, and so pay close attention to them. Here's the final deadline, but then remember, so Sunday, October the 11th at 11:59 is the final deadline. You can't just miraculously come up with something and submit it. You have to have done these other smaller pieces of it and turned it in on the discussion board beforehand, okay? At any rate, so I'm not gonna spend a lot of time going over every little tiny tidbit of this assignment. I'm just giving you an overview with this video. What you want to do as you go through, and I'm going to address a couple of these questions. The introduction, tell us a little bit about yourself and your family. Remember, we did pre-writing. I didn't give you anything to go on. Just answer the question. Give it your best shot. That's what pre-writing is. Now that we go back and make a rough draft and try to make everything a little bit better, you want to make sure that you focus on things about yourself in a positive way, not a negative way. Things about your community and family in a positive way, not a negative way. So don't diss on whatever your home community is. Don't diss on your family, even if you got a really terrible family. Try to say something nice about them, at least in this particular paragraph, or just don't talk about them too much. If you really got a horrible family, it happens. But also think about saying things about yourself that relate to why you're here at college. So if you have some interests in working with your hands and you're going into welding or automotive, ta-da, make sure you mention that in the intro, because it's going to lead later on into why you're here with your academics. Okay. Academics or career, those were the two choices you had to work on for this week. We skipped this one, and we skipped it for a reason. Describing yourself as a student, your study habits, your educational goals, etc. What or who inspired you to pursue a college education? Tell us about any support systems you'll have while pursuing your degree. Many of you ended up with a paragraph that was like this long, covering this one, and for good reason, right? There are 3 questions inside the question that you've got to try to answer. So what I tell students, and again, for pre-writing, I don't give you anything to go on. Here's the question, just take a shot at it and answer it, and then we make it better from there. Now that we are in that rough drafting stage and we're trying to make things better, break it up. It is okay. These are your 5 sections, but that doesn't mean that you are limited to only 1 paragraph for each. This one is a good one to break into 2 paragraphs, I feel, depending on how much you have to say. If you have a lot to say and you feel like that paragraph is like super long, I would say this part, describing yourself in a good way, is maybe 1 paragraph, and then talking about someone or something that inspired you, as well as who's going to support you while you're pursuing your degree, could be paragraph 2. You also could organize it a little differently. You could have, if let's say the person who inspired you like really had a huge impact on your life and you have a lot to say about that person, separate that one into its own paragraph. You know, the person who inspired me the most was my mother, da 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 da. Then afterwards, describe yourself as a student and tell us about any support systems. So you can switch the order of these questions if you need to, but 1 paragraph first or second, I'm fine with that. But again, like I said, there's 3 questions to answer here. If you found that you had a lot to say, go ahead and break it into 2 paragraphs, okay? Same thing with career plans. If you went with career plan, notice, describe your ultimate career goal. That's 1. What qualities do you have that'll help you achieve that goal? So good qualities, 2. And then what are your weaknesses? 3. 3 questions within the question. So you may, in this case, have a lot to say. If you're really passionate and you know and you've known for years what your career was going to be, you might really have a lot to say just on this part right here. Paragraph 1, and then paragraph 2, the qualities you have that are good, and then the weaknesses you have. Now, I always ask students this question. When you're talking about your strengths, your good qualities, as well as your weaknesses, which one should you emphasize more? Hopefully the answer is obvious, your strengths, right? So if you're talking about what qualities you have that'll help you, the good qualities, you need to say 3 or 4 or 5 of those and elaborate on those a lot. When you get to weaknesses, don't list 10 weaknesses. Don't even list 5 weaknesses. Only list 1 or 2. Keep these to a minimum, only 1 or 2 weaknesses. And then this is a super important part. Some students will just say their weaknesses and then end it, and it's like, no, that's not the right way to do this. How will you overcome them? That's the important part. I want to tell you too, this is a job interview question. So some of you who've interviewed for jobs, a lot of employers will ask you to tell them about your strengths and your weaknesses. And so practicing this for a scholarship essay is a good way to prepare yourself for that first job interview. If you've never been asked this question before, it's a hard question. If you're in the hot seat and you're on the spot and you've never thought about it before, it's kind of a hard question. So thinking about that carefully And then not only saying what the weaknesses are, but also how you plan to overcome them. That's important. I will go over a couple of landmines to avoid with this. So when you talk about weaknesses, don't say anything that is too heavy, for lack of a better way to put it. I don't want you to ever be dishonest, but if you say weaknesses, I have a lot of absences. I've never been able to be on time. I really am, you know, into the party scene and not so much into the college scene. Don't say anything like that, okay? Don't shoot yourself in the foot, so to speak. I'm from Mississippi originally. That's a saying we have, shoot yourself in the foot. It means don't make a really careless mistake that's going to cost you, okay? So when you talk about weaknesses, you want to say stuff like, it's totally okay to say procrastination. I'm really bad at procrastinating. I don't always do my homework assignments in a timely manner the way I should. Sometimes I don't get up early enough, and I don't take the responsibility to be on time for my classes like I should. However, I'm working on that. I know that in high school, I kind of got a little bit lackluster at times or was dragging my feet at times, but now I'm in college. I'm serious about this. I'm setting my alarms. I'm also making people keep me accountable. Da, da, da. So you can talk about the same weaknesses, but in a way that shows now that you're here as a student in college, you're putting your best foot forward. Okay. So just be careful when you talk about that part. And again, when you write it, make sure you emphasize the strengths more. And then the weaknesses part, only a couple sentences, one or maybe two weaknesses, and tell how you're going to overcome those. Okay. And then that's it. Be done with it. Okay. Focus the most on the strengths. The sections that you'll be working on for this week, so that your assignment for last week was the intro and then either one of these. So you'll be going back now and finishing out the rest of the sections, whatever sections you haven't done. For your unique circumstances or obstacles, I tell students to think about this one in a way of, I give them a little more in depth of a question here. So it says describe any special circumstances and or obstacles you've had to overcome to attend college. I tell students to think back to your early childhood, the earliest memories you have from then all the way until now. What types of challenges have you had to face and overcome in order to be here today as a student in college? Think about it like that, because sometimes students will be like, oh, I don't have any challenges. But if you look back, like maybe when you were 6 years old, something really hard and bad happened, and you don't think about it affecting your chances of going to college, but things that happen to kids at age 6 can affect their chances of going to college, believe it or not. There's nothing that's really off limits here. I have had students share in their essays that I had one student share, and he got a scholarship off of this essay. He had started using crank and was developing a meth addiction, and ended up getting arrested in Idaho and having to do, I think, 48 days, 45 or 48 days in jail in Idaho. And he said that experience changed his life. He didn't sleep the whole time. He was worried about being beat up, being raped, being, you know, he really could not even sleep the whole time he was there. He was there with some really tough characters. And when he got out of that experience, it changed his life profoundly. He got clean from drugs and got on a better path in his life, and actually was an A-level student in not only my class but his other classes. He was a 4.0 student. So he shared something that serious and that personal in his scholarship essay, and ended up getting a scholarship. So there's nothing that's really like off limits. What I do tell students is don't forget. Some students will look at things like that's not an obstacle when really it is. When you send this to a committee of readers, we talk about like audience, who's reading this, like usually a committee of either professors or administrators or people who work at a college or people who are affiliated with a college that are reading through these and deciding who do we want to award X amount of money to. Sometimes businesses like Starbucks, McDonald's, Walmart, they all have scholarships as well. But it's a group of people who are thinking, all right, you know, if we're going to give $1,000 to a student, we want it to be someone who's got some promise, right? Who's going to use this money wisely. So when you talk about your circumstances, whatever they are, remember that coming from a single parent household, coming from a broken home, losing a loved one at a critical point in your life, being homeless, or having an unstable home situation. If you are a parent and you are providing for other people right now, that's considered a challenge, right? A special circumstance. You may not see it as an obstacle, but it's definitely a challenge as you're attending college. If you're working full time and trying to attend college, If you are financially independent, you don't have anyone helping to support you right now. Those are all examples. If you've been through a divorce, if you are dealing with custody issues, if you have gotten in trouble, as the one student I shared with you, if you have gotten in trouble with the law over some things and have had to rethink your journey in life a little bit, those are all challenges that could be used for this type of essay. If you don't really feel like you have any of those, you feel like you've had a pretty blessed experience so far, go with subjects you struggle with. So if you struggle more with math, say that. I've always struggled more with math ever since I was 6 years old. Da da da. You know, like there's all kinds of different angles that you could pursue with this particular question. Same as here. If you need more than one paragraph, that's okay. Don't go more than two. I've had students that wrote me like 4 pages worth of all the obstacles they've overcome in life. And that's too much. Okay, 2 paragraphs at the most. 1 paragraph if you feel like you haven't dealt with many obstacles. 2 paragraphs if there's more than one obstacle you've dealt with several, and you just kind of want to like break up. Here's paragraph 1 about these two, and here's paragraph 2 about these two. Okay, that's how to tackle that one. I'm going to move down now to financial needs. Describe your financial situation in addition to scholarships. How do you plan to fund your education? How will the scholarship help you achieve your goals? Notice it's another one of those 3-in-1s, 3 questions in one. So you maybe want to print this out and use like a little checklist to make sure that you're hitting on every part of the question to get the full amount of points here. So describing your financial situation, basically, how are you paying for things right now? Go ahead and be specific. How is rent being paid for? How are you paying for food, transportation, utilities? You've got children, whatever else you need. How are you paying for things right now? In addition to scholarships, so if you're working, make sure you say that. I'm currently working, and be specific. I'm currently working at Jimmy John's, da 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 da, whatever. Now, the last part, how is this going to help you achieve your goals? Remember that a scholarship is money that is to be used for your education, not for vacations, not to help your parents pay off some medical expenses, not to help you pay for food, not to help you pay for your car payment. It's meant to help you pay for school and school-related expenses. Now, when you talk about how the scholarship is going to help you, that doesn't mean you can't subtly mention some of those things. So if you need reliable transportation because you live in Post Falls or further, you live in Rathdrum or even further, you do need transportation. That's a real expense for you. But you can say it in a way of like, the scholarship's going to actually help me with some of my transportation expenses, getting to and from school from Rathdrum, Idaho. You didn't say it's going to help me pay my car payment. You didn't say it's gas money for whatever I need to do. You said it's going to help me commute to school. You connected it directly to school. So if that makes sense, that's what you want to try to do with everything. They are not going to be able to give you any money if you openly say, I'm planning to use it for something else besides school. So everything you say, if you're able to relate it to school, then it works. One of the biggest mistakes students make is to say they're going to spend their money on food. Scholarship committee's gonna be like, well, sign up for food stamps if you're broke. You know, like there's other ways to get food other than using our scholarship, right? But what you can say is, I want to use it for my academic needs first, but if I have any left over, I'd like to invest in a campus meal plan at the cafeteria so that I don't have to leave campus during the day. I can stay and study. Purchasing a campus meal plan from the cafeteria is different than saying, I'm going to use it to buy food, if you see what I'm saying, because it's now we've connected it to college in the way that we worded the sentence. So again, I'm not ever telling you to be dishonest with how you're planning to use the money. I'm just letting you know that the way you word it is very important as far as trying to score the money. Making sure that everything you say is somehow relatable to, this is going to help me with school. Okay. So those are just some tidbits from me as a teacher, things to consider as you write the rest of this essay. As always, feel free to email me anytime or jump in on the Wednesday Zoom call if you have other questions that come up. And this is just a rough draft. So write it the best you can. If it's not perfect, I'm going to be looking over them and giving general comments to everybody. Your peers are going to be looking over them and giving you some suggestions. And then for next week's video, I'll address any other issues that I see that are coming up just in general. to try to help you make that final draft even better. Okay, so give it your best shot. I'm going to stop this screen share, and I'm going to go into another screen share now with, I believe, Canvas. Let me see if I'm sharing Canvas. I think I'm not. Let me move here. I think now I'm sharing Canvas. Okay, this was last week. Now we have week 2, instructions and documents. I try to keep it fairly small and easy to follow. I am going to add the instructions here. That way, if any student is like missing my emails that have the instructions, then you still have like a document here that just says 1, 2, 3, 4. Here's the things you got to do this week. So I'll add that in. But you've got these 2 items visible to you now. So this is the syllabus. This was last week. This is the document I was just looking at, the instructions, the assignment sheet for the scholarship. Now you've got some more detailed stuff. I'm going to actually start with the second one here, the MLA basic format handout. What is MLA? How do I format it? Because we're doing our rough draft. And again, if you mess up, this is the rough draft, okay? But I do want you to try now to either do a Word document or Google Docs or something and format it according to MLA, okay? And then the next one is the rubric. How is it being graded? That's important to always know. So it doesn't work very well on Zoom if I click on this and go in, and sometimes it messes up. So I'm going to stop this share and pull each of these documents directly from off of my screen. Let me go there now. Let me go to another screen share here. It takes me a couple minutes to navigate between everything. Here we go. Okay, so now I have this document. This is my MLA like cheat sheet basically. Notice your name, Professor Wilson, English 101, section number, whatever. I think this section is like 5334 or something. But whatever your section is, look it up. Don't just take that straight from the video. Month, day, so September, spell it out. Notice I spelled this out, 28 of 2020. That's what you would be doing here, okay? Some kind of interesting title centered here. Do not use any bold or underline. Just use regular font size. Some people try to underline the title, bold the title, whatever. It's supposed to be regular with MLA format. For right now, you could just say scholarship essay, rough draft, or just label it. You know, just put, it doesn't have to be the most creative title ever to start with. Start your introduction paragraph here. Remember to set the font to Times New Roman, 12 point and double spaced. Indent the first line of each paragraph in the essay. That means this part, rather than blocking it out. You hit the tab button and indent the first line. So you can just read through these paragraphs that I've written you. The paragraphs that I've written here give you some hints of like basically the format and the layout of MLA. We aren't doing any references yet. We're not doing a research paper right now. This is all coming from your life and your experience. So this Wilson 1, you don't have to worry about just yet, but it is going to come into play later. Also down at the bottom, works cited. This is what you do if you do use another source. So the next essay we do where we're doing some research, this is how you document the websites you went to, or if you used a book, or if you used a newspaper article or whatever. So I'm not going to spend much time on this video talking about this part of it because we're not researching yet, okay? But remember, this document is here, it's available, and it's a nice little cheat sheet to help you get started with MLA. Remember when you're writing to avoid second person voice, what is that? Second person is you. We say, you know, you think. If you can follow my example here, just don't use the word you, don't use the word your. We don't use the word you in our college essays because it's considered casual or vernacular speech. It's not considered formal or professional writing. So don't use the word you or any version of it in any college essay for any class, really. In this case, it's okay to use what we call first person voice, which is I or me, right? Because it's a scholarship essay and it's asking you personal questions about your life and your goals and etc. It's okay to say I or me or my or whatever. And you're actually going to say those quite a lot in this first essay. Once we get past the first essay, though, get into research, we're not going to be using I and me or whatever. It's going to be what's called third person voice. He, she, it, they, according to the latest research. Da, 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 da. It's not going to be I and me, okay? But it is okay to say I or me in this first essay. Just don't say you. So anyway, if you have a chance, first of all, use the format here. Look at how this is formatted. and follow it. And then also read through these paragraphs just to kind of give yourself a little bit of a crash course in MLA, if you will. I'm going to stop the screen share here. I don't know if it's going to let me pull the screen share for the other document. May not. I might have to pull it directly from Canvas. Let me see if this works. I don't know if it will work, but I'm going to try. This is the rubric, and if it doesn't work, let me see. It's a PDF document, so sometimes those are a little, it should be showing you on my Canvas now. It's kind of tiny probably, but you can pull this up on your own. Let me see if I can zoom a little. All right. So the 6 traits of effective writing, you'll notice that on the assignment sheet it said, here's how you're going to be graded. 50 points, 10 each for just answering the questions in each section. The other 50 points come from the 6 traits of effective writing rubric. Well, here it is. Okay, I'm looking at ideas, and that's the purpose of a reading. You got a topic, a thesis, and key supporting details. We don't have a thesis per se in this essay. We'll get into thesis statements for the next essay, but you need to make sure that you're on topic and you've got key supporting details that match each of those questions, like what they want to know, and you're answering those, right? To get credit for your overall ideas. Organization, is it organized? Beginning, middle, and ending parts. Well, in this particular essay, they've got it laid out for you. Introduction, unique circumstances or obstacles, academics, career. Follow the pattern, follow the order in order to get credit for organization. I do allow exceptions. If you recall, when I was talking about the academics part, there's 3 different questions within the question. If you feel that you need to switch the order of those, but you're still staying within that section in order to break your paragraphs in a nice way, I'm fine with that. Like if you need to answer, there's 3 questions as part of it, and you start with the middle one instead, I'm fine with that. But as long as when I read it, I can see this is clearly the introduction. All right, now they're moving into their obstacles. Now they're talking about their academics. Even if they decided to start with the middle question about the person who inspired them the most or whatever, they're still in the academics section. You see what I'm saying? As long as I can follow it section by section, like, okay, here's what part of the essay we're on, then you'll get credit for the organization there. And as we move into our other essays, you won't have a structure. You'll be designing the whole thing yourself. And so we will be designing outlines and making our organization, etc. Voice is not going to be graded just yet. It'll be graded next time, but I do want you to remember, if nothing else, we'll come back to voice next time. Keep a positive tone, not a negative tone. If you're really negative, I don't think I'm ever going to be able to succeed. I don't have any support systems. I'm just on a whim at college right now, and I hope this works out. You're not going to get the scholarship money. They're not going to award you anything. So keep it positive. Put your best foot forward, so to speak, with your voice, and you'll do fine on that part of it for this essay, okay? Word choice, selection and quality of the words. This one's tricky. You don't want to use complicated dictionary language in a scholarship essay because it makes it harder to read, okay? It should feel natural when I read it, you know, so don't worry about overdoing it, okay? With that said, mainly you want to make sure that you use the right words in the right way in the right scenario. So there's a difference between saying, let's say for weaknesses, you say, I have anger issues. Whoa, that's going to scare somebody, okay? You might want to think about your word choice of saying, I have sometimes had difficulty managing my emotions. I've gone through a lot of really difficult, hard things in life, and learning to manage my emotions effectively has been a challenge for me. But I'm learning. See how the word choice there has a different feel to it, right? When someone reads it, okay? And if you and I are talking and having a face-to-face conversation, say I've struggled with anger issues, I get it, and I'm looking at your facial expressions, and I understand what your meaning is. But when it's on paper and they can't actually see you and they don't know you, it could come off the wrong way depending on how you word things. And you can think back to the other examples I gave too of word choice, choosing your words wisely, and how you describe something is important. Okay, conventions. This is the technical stuff: spelling, grammar, punctuation, sentence structure, putting everything in the right place, crossing your T's and dotting your I's. The good news is this is only worth 10 points. So you could do terrible on this part of it, but you nail all the other things. You've got all your content there that you're supposed to have, and you can actually do okay on this essay. But of course, this is English class, so use your spelling and grammar check. Pay attention to the peer reviews. Ask me questions if you need to. Look things up on Google if you need to. try to write good sentences, okay? And yeah, to get an A, right? So it's not gonna, you're not gonna absolutely tank the essay or fail if you don't do so well in that section. It's just one section out of several, right? But do pay attention to that part of it, okay? So so there it is. Those are the categories that you're being graded on. Oh, I skipped one. Sentence fluency here. Sentence fluency is just the flow. How does it flow? So you could technically cross your T's and dot your I's and put the commas in all the right places, but it just sounds really awkward when we read it. So that's what we want to try to avoid here. Sentence fluency is flowing with our sentences, and the best way to do this is to read it out loud. Read it out loud and see how it sounds. And usually, if you hit a spot where it sounds really awkward, chances are it probably is really awkward. You can also, better yet, have someone else read it to you. A brother, sister, friend, roommate, cousin, someone. Have someone read it to you, and you listen to how it sounds in their mind when they read it. When they read through it, the way that they take things or the way that they read it might come off a little bit differently than what you meant. So especially when it comes to like word choice, I didn't quite mean for it to sound that way or come off that way. Listening to someone else read it to you will kind of give you some hints of that. And then also, if there are some grammar problems, if they get stuck on a sentence and it just doesn't sound right when they read it, and they go back and they read it again, it still doesn't sound right. It could be them reading, but chances are it might be something in the sentence itself that you need to look at. Maybe if I switch this word with that word, or maybe if I put the comma here rather than here, it would come off better. Okay, so chances are if it sounds awkward when someone reads it to you in a certain spot, then it is awkward, and you might need to go back and pay attention to that sentence or whatever. Okay, so I think that's all of them. I think I talked about all of them here, and that's what this is. We are using this rubric for the entire course. It's very simple. It's very straightforward, and this is there just to help you, okay? If you use this as a basis for any college class that you take, you'll do well on essays. It doesn't sound like much. It's very simple. But these are things that any professor in any class, whether it's psychology or a science class or whatever, you have to write something. Basic things are all the ideas there. Is it organized and in order? Did the sentences flow okay? Did they pay attention to grammar a little bit? The word choice and the words they used, were they the right words? Did the meaning come off okay? Those are things that any professor is going to look at, okay? And again, you may see different rubrics for different classes, but these are some of the hidden basic elements that are going to help you to do a good job on any type of essay. So I hope that this video has been a little bit helpful with helping you navigate what these resources are, also helping you kind of tackle the first rough draft of this essay. And again, if you don't do it perfectly the first time out, it's rough draft time. So give it your best shot this week. And after you've written a full draft, you've got time next week to interact with your peers, give them some thoughts on their essays, but also start tweaking yours a little bit and making it even better. Have a great week. And again, as always, feel free to email me with any questions that you run into. Bye-bye now.